Ethan Carter, a 13-year-old boy, has lived in rural Oklahoma all his life. Life isn't easy for the Carter family since his father's untimely death, leaving his mother, Maria, to juggle multiple jobs to keep them afloat. Ethan takes on the role of protector and provider for his younger siblings, Jack, 10, and Lily, 8. The family's home, a modest wooden house surrounded by farmland, reflects their struggles: leaking ceilings, creaky floors, and patched-up furniture. One early morning, Ethan wakes to the sound of the rooster crowing. Sunlight filters through the cracks in the ceiling, casting patterns on the worn blanket covering his bed. Quietly, he rises, avoiding the noisy floorboards so as not to wake his siblings. In the kitchen, he stretches the last bit of cereal and milk for their breakfast. Ethan's stomach growls, but he brushes it aside. Maria, already dressed for her shift at the diner, places a tired hand on his shoulder and thanks him for holding the family together. Later that day, Ethan and his siblings walk the mile-long dirt road to school. Ethan watches the other children arriving in shiny cars, their parents waving goodbye. Among them is Jeffrey Thompson, a boy from Ethan's class stepping out of his father's pickup truck in spotless sneakers. Jeffrey's confident demeanor is a stark contrast to Ethan's patched-up clothes and duct-taped backpack. After school, as Ethan walks Jack and Lily home, they pass a field where an old farmer, Mr. Thompson, struggles with a broken-down combine harvester. Intrigued, Ethan approaches despite Jack's protests. "You don't know him, Ethan," Jack warns. But Ethan sees an opportunity. "Sir, do you need help?" Ethan asks. Mr. Thompson looks up, suspicious at first but too desperate to refuse. Ethan quickly identifies the issue, a slipped belt, and offers to fix it. Drawing on the skills his late father taught him, he repairs the machine. The engine sputters, then roars to life, surprising both Mr. Thompson and Ethan. "Well, I'll be damned," Mr. Thompson mutters, giving Ethan a nod of approval. "You've got a knack for this, kid." The next day, Mr. Thompson shows up at Ethan's home. He proposes a deal to Maria. Ethan can work part-time at his farm after school to help repair equipment. Maria hesitates, concerned that the job will interfere with Ethan's schooling. Ethan pleads, promising to balance everything. Maria reluctantly agrees, setting strict conditions. If his grades slip, he must quit. Ethan's first day on the job is both exciting and intimidating. He meets Mr. Calhoun, the farm's gruff head mechanic, and a group of workers who doubt Ethan's abilities, particularly Jake, a surly farmhand who mocks Ethan's age and inexperience. Ethan quickly immerses himself in the work, eager to prove his worth. Under Mr. Calhoun's gruff guidance, he learns to handle tools and diagnose mechanical issues. The work is tough and the hours are long, but Ethan finds a sense of purpose. One afternoon, Jake deliberately gives Ethan the wrong tool during a repair. When the repair fails, Jake mocks Ethan in front of the other workers. Humiliated but determined, Ethan spends the evening studying an old mechanic's manual his father left behind, determined to improve. At home, Ethan's new job creates tension. Jack and Lily miss having their brother around, and Maria worries about his health and school performance. One evening, Maria notices Ethan struggling to stay awake while doing homework. "You're taking on too much," Maria says, her voice laced with concern. "I can handle it," Ethan insists. "We need the money." Despite her worries, Maria can't help but feel proud of Ethan's dedication. She offers to help with his siblings' bedtime routines to lighten his load. While cleaning out a dusty corner of the barn, Ethan discovers an old toolbox containing a handwritten letter from his father. The letter is filled with words of encouragement, urging Ethan to persevere and follow his dreams. Overwhelmed with emotion, Ethan pockets the letter, finding renewed determination to excel both at work and at home. Ethan faces a series of challenges on the farm. One day, a tractor's engine fails during a critical planting session. Jake scoffs, claiming it's beyond repair. Ethan, however, carefully inspects the engine and identifies a clogged air filter as the problem. He fixes it just in time, earning grudging respect from some of the workers. However, not everyone is impressed. Jake continues to undermine Ethan, once hiding his tools to sabotage his progress. Ethan confronts Jake but refrains from escalating the situation, knowing he needs to stay focused on his goals. Ethan's increasing responsibilities begin to take a toll on his schoolwork. His teacher, Mr. Wallace, notices Ethan's fatigue and slipping grades. Calling him aside after class, Mr. Wallace expresses concern. "You're a bright kid, Ethan," Mr. Wallace says, "but you can't do everything. Don't burn yourself out." Ethan promises to catch up, but the pressure of balancing school, work, and family weighs heavily on him. One evening, Mr. Thompson gives Ethan a particularly challenging task: repairing a baler, critical for the upcoming harvest. The machine is old and temperamental, and even Mr. Calhoun struggles to pinpoint the issue. Ethan spends hours diagnosing the problem, finally discovering a worn-out bearing that needs replacing. The next morning, Ethan successfully completes the repair just as the harvest begins. Watching the machine work flawlessly fills him with pride. Mr. Thompson claps him on the shoulder, saying, "You got a real talent, son." The baler repair earns Ethan respect from most of the farm workers, even Jake. Mr. Calhoun begins treating Ethan as an equal, teaching him advanced techniques and sharing stories from his decades of experience. For the first time, Ethan feels like he's part of a team. At home, Ethan's siblings notice the change in him. "You're like a real mechanic now," Jack says, his eyes wide with admiration. Ethan smiles, ruffling Jack's hair. "Not yet, but I'm getting there." As harvest season approaches, the farm buzzes with activity. The workers prepare equipment and tension runs high. This is the farm's busiest and most crucial time of the year. Ethan, now more confident in his abilities, takes on larger tasks under Mr. Calhoun's watchful eye. The baler repair has solidified his place in the team, and even Jake seems to begrudgingly acknowledge Ethan's contributions. One morning, as Ethan checks the harvester, he notices a subtle misalignment in the cutting blades. Fixing it quickly avoids a potential breakdown, impressing Mr. Thompson. "You've got sharp eyes, kid," he says. "That's what keeps a farm running." While Ethan thrives at the farm, his schoolwork continues to suffer. Mr. Wallace assigns a major project on American history due in 2 weeks, but Ethan struggles to find the time. One evening, Maria confronts him when she sees his unfinished assignments. "You can't keep this up, Ethan," she says. "Your education comes first." Ethan's frustration boils over. "I'm doing this for us. For Jack, for Lily, for you." Maria softens, realizing the pressure he's under. "I know, Ethan, but you don't have to carry this alone." At the farm, Mr. Calhoun starts sharing stories from his early days as a mechanic, teaching Ethan valuable lessons about life and work. "Machines are like people," he says one afternoon. "Every part has its purpose. You've got to treat them with respect if you want them to work for you." Ethan absorbs these lessons, finding parallels between mechanics and his own life. The mentorship strengthens their bond, and Mr. Calhoun begins to see Ethan as more than an apprentice. He sees potential. Not everyone shares Mr. Calhoun's faith in Ethan. Jake, still bitter about being overshadowed by a 13-year-old, sabotages Ethan during a critical repair. While fixing the harvester, Ethan discovers that someone has loosened a crucial bolt, causing additional damage. Furious but cautious, Ethan confronts Jake privately. "Why are you doing this?" Ethan demands. Jake sneers. "You think you're special, don't you? Just because Mr. Thompson likes you doesn't mean you belong here." Ethan chooses not to escalate, channeling his anger into completing the repair. The incident fuels his determination to prove Jake wrong. One evening, Maria hands Ethan a letter addressed to him. It's from his late father, found tucked away in an old drawer. Ethan opens it with trembling hands. "Dear Ethan," it begins, "I always knew you grow into someone strong and capable. Life will test you, but never doubt your ability to rise above it. Remember, you're never alone." The letter renews Ethan's resolve. He tucks it into his pocket, carrying his father's words as a reminder of his strength. Midway through harvest season, disaster strikes. The farm's primary harvester breaks down during a critical phase. Workers scramble to assess the damage, but the machine's age and complexity leave them stumped. Ethan steps forward, nervous but determined. "Let me take a look," he says. Under Mr. Calhoun's supervision, Ethan works tirelessly to diagnose the issue. The drive belt has snapped, and the engine shows signs of wear. With limited resources and time, Ethan improvises a solution, using spare parts to create a temporary fix. Hours later, the harvester roars back to life. Cheers erupt from the workers, and even Jake looks impressed. Mr. Thompson clasps Ethan's shoulder, pride evident in his eyes. "You saved the harvest, son. I don't know how we'd manage without you." The successful repair marks a turning point for Ethan. Mr. Thompson offers him a more permanent role at the farm, promising to support his education if he chooses to pursue mechanics in the future. At home, Maria notices the change in Ethan. He's more confident, more focused. She finds him helping Jack with his homework one evening, a sight that fills her with pride. "You're doing great, Ethan," she says, her voice soft. "Your father would be so proud." Despite his successes, Ethan knows he must address the tension with Jake. One day, he approaches Jake while the other workers are on break. "I'm not here to take anything from you," Ethan says. "I just want to help." Jake hesitates, then sighs. "Maybe I've been too hard on you," he admits. "You're good, kid. Better than I thought." The two shake hands, marking the start of a tentative truce. With the harvest complete, life at the farm settles into a calmer rhythm. Ethan continues to learn from Mr. Calhoun, who teaches him more advanced techniques. The mentorship evolves into a close bond, with Mr. Calhoun treating Ethan like the grandson he never had. At school, Ethan works to catch up on his assignments, with help from Mr. Wallace and Maria. Balancing work and school isn't easy, but Ethan finds a way, driven by his father's words and his own determination. One afternoon, Mr. Thompson pulls Ethan aside. "You've got a gift, Ethan," he says. "If you stick with it, you can do something big." Ethan smiles, thinking of his father and everything he's learned. "I will," he promises. That evening, Ethan sits on the porch watching Jack and Lily play in the yard. The weight of the past few months hasn't disappeared, but it feels lighter now. He knows he's built something lasting both for himself and his family.